Hey guys, it's Ms. Gephardt. This is video number 2. So we're going to be looking at the chart that you guys have to fill out on the macromolecules. It's called chemical reactions taking place inside the cell. We're going to go through, and not this entire thing, so I'm going to just kind of scan through some of it, but we're going to focus in on these 4 large macromolecules: the carbohydrates, the lipids, the proteins, and nucleic acids. And so we're going to go through each of them, and you're going to fill in as you go across the chart. To start off with, we have these carbohydrates. And a carbohydrate, the subunit of the carbohydrate is the sugar. Okay, and they're mostly composed of atoms of carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen, kind of all linked together. Um, they're going to be used by cells because they're going to provide that cell energy. We're going to eat those carbohydrates, and it's going to be broken down and given to the cell, and the cell's going to hold on to it as energy. You probably hear of things like athletes going and eating a lot of pastas and things like that days before a big competition or something like that, because the pasta is it's a carbohydrate, and that's going to kind of load their body in with that energy, and so when they need it, their body can then take it, and they have bursts of energy to run or kick the ball or shoot the hoop or hit the golf club or whatever it is that they're doing. Examples would include starches, cellulose, and glycogen. These are examples of carbohydrates. Okay, so that's what's going to be found inside our food. Things like cellulose, you would probably most think of celery, that fibrous tissue in celery. That's the cellulose. Starches are things like your potatoes and stuff, and glycogen. Think of them like your sweet stuff, the sugars that we'd find in like our carrots, strawberries, things like that. For the diagram, you want to draw something like this, okay? And what these all represent, these little hexagons, no, are they hexagons? Yes. No, not hexagons. Whatever. This shape, this shape on their thing, that's representing a carbohydrate. And that's what the molecules would look like as they're all, bound together, okay? So those are carbohydrates. Next on our list are going to be the lipids, and you probably very much know these lipids. Any fats, oils, waxes that we find in living things, those are all going to be lipids. In terms of what the subunit that they're made up of, these are going to be made up of things called glycerol and fatty acids. So glycerols and fatty acids, it's just think of it as the what it's made of. Okay, and I'm going to show you a picture of it, but that's just the 2 parts to a lipid. So we have a glycerol, and it's bound to a fatty acid. It's going to be made up of atoms of carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen again, but in different arrangements than what we would expect with a carbohydrate. It's going to be used by the cell, and this is where it gets kind of funny, but with the cell, for lipids, it is used for energy, but your fats and lipids are used for more of a longer term energy. So you guys, we store fat. Think of it like a polar bear, or not a polar bear, I'm sorry, think of a grizzly bear, okay? A grizzly bear is going to go out, and a grizzly bear is going to hunt and hunt and hunt, and they're going to pack on a lot of fat in their body, because then they're going to go and hibernate. And over the winter, that fat is going to be used to sustain life. Okay, so fats and oils and lipids and things like that are energy stores, but they're meant for long-term energy, not quick bursts of energy. It's meant for like sustaining life. Examples of fats are going to be fats, oils, and waxes, and then your diagram is going to be what you see here. The rounded end at the top is going to be the glycerol, and the little tail squiggle is the fatty acid. So it's the glycerol bound to a fatty acid. That's what a lipid is. All right, next we've got proteins, and with our proteins, they're going to be made up, the subunit that they're made up of is called an amino acid. And amino acids, again, contain carbon, oxygen, hydrogen. They also are going to contain nitrogen, and sometimes they can contain sulfur. We're going to see these guys carrying out most of the chemical activity in the cells. They're going to be controlling the reactions that are going on in the cells. And some proteins are going to support growth and repair. Some are going to be looking at the reaction itself that's going on within the cell. Examples of proteins are going to be things like enzymes. So think about our saliva, that's a protein. They're also important parts of the cell membrane, um, part of the cell that's going to allow for things to get in and out of the cell. So that's another function of the protein. It's going to be very important within the membrane to help control things, to help get things through the doorways of a cell. And these are what the amino acid, or not the amino acids, the proteins are going to look like. Okay. So this is a string of these. And they're all going to be different. You know, some proteins are not going to be as long as this. Some are going to be double the length. It just depends on what your body's trying to create. The last thing on our list is something called a nucleic acid. And these are, you're probably very familiar with nucleic acids because DNA and RNA are both examples of nucleic acids. DNA is deoxyribonucleic acid and RNA is just ribonucleic acid. But their subunit is that of the nucleotide. And you know the nucleotides. You guys have been with these before. You probably remember the ATGC, adenine, thymine, guanine, cytosine, that make up DNA. Well, those are nucleotides. The atoms that are made up of these are going to be carbons and oxygens and hydrogens and nitrogens and phosphorus, and sometimes you know, just depends on the length of these. The cell is going to use this to hold all of the instructions. Everything that we need to make new cells are held within this. The blueprints of your hair and your eye color and your nails and your height and your skin and everything, down to the type of skin cells and the type of liver cells and the type of whatever. All those instructions are held within the DNA, which is a nucleic acid. Examples would include DNA and RNA. And when we look at a drawing, okay, we're actually going to be focused on the one to the left with the green. That's what a nucleotide looks like. Okay, that's all it bound together. The one to the right is going to be showing us a double helix. That's DNA. When we put all these nucleotides together, we make these nucleic acids, which then in turn make this, you know, double helix, which we have on the DNA strand. So that's our nucleic acids. I don't need any water things. So at this point, hopefully you have filled in all the information and you're looking over. I want you to think about carbs and lipids and proteins and nucleic acids. We want to think about in terms of energy storage. We also want to think about in terms of, you know, when we have too much fat in our diet, what kind of consequences that we can have from that. Our next class is going to be focused in on having those and having them not in the right amounts and what they can do to our bodies. If you have any questions, please make sure you ask your teacher, and I hope everything is filled in on your chart, and we will discuss this in class either with myself or your other science teacher.